Hey guys, good morning. We're going for another read and ride. Is that what I call it? Read and ride? Anyway, it's historic. I have a loud muffler out there. Hey, we're going to talk a little about how many places have you lived and where have you lived? And we're going to discuss a little bit. I've lived a few places. This place right here has been the longest. It'll be coming up in July on 26 years. So let's take off and do a little ride and a little story. So it's an early morning. It's only about 7:30ish, and so we're on our very first e-bike that we've ever had. This is called the Climora, and I really like this one a lot. It was not very expensive at all, and so I still ride it quite a bit. But we're going to take off this morning and talk a little bit about everybody's lived somewhere. You're bound to. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my story, the places I've lived all my life, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope it adds a little entertainment to you. But I was born in 1953. God, that's a long time ago. And I was born in Ohio. I was born in the town Ashland, Ohio. And Ashland, Ohio, if you're in the NASCAR racing, Tim Richmond was from Ashland, Ohio. But I was born in a hospital up there. We lived in a little town, if you want to call it a town, called Lake Fork. It was south of Worcester, Ohio, on Route 95, and we had a little house that Dad built. You're going to hear some squeaking because this bike has squeaky brakes. So Dad built this little house himself. From the ground up. Small house, they called it the tiny. There was only 2 bedrooms in it. There was 3 of us kids. We had bunk beds and another bed for my sister. So I had my brother and my sisters, our entire family. Lived there as a little child all the way up for quite a few years. My dad's mother and father lived right down the street. It wasn't a half a mile. I don't think it was that far. So we lived really close to grandparents. Lived there for a long, long time. My dad had worked with my grandpa. They did plumbing and heating work and a lot of different carpentry work. Work got slow, and so Dad had worked a couple other spots. He worked at a company, Gershon Slaters in Worcester. They made the Wienermobile. We lived there a long time. Dad then decided he found this ice cream stand, and it was a little ways from where we lived there. And there went a car by with a dog hanging out. I love dogs. It looks like it's a little cloudy out. I hope it don't rain. But anyway, so we lived there a long time. We moved up to a little town called Sullivan, north of where we was at, and we rented a small house and had the ice cream stand just outside of town there. And Dad opened Dad up for one season. This little house we lived in was kind of cool. Way back, a field behind us was a train tracks, and back then you used to see the bums would jump off the train track and they'd come there into town, and I don't know what they did, if they stole or what they did, but occasionally you'd see a bum there. Dad ran the ice cream stand for 1 year. The equipment was really, really bad shape. It needed replaced, and it wasn't really affordable. So he had quit the stand, and we moved out of that house in a little town, in the town I was born in, Ashland. We rented another house and lived there. Went to a little town called Arthur Street School there, and I think my dad was working with my grandpa at that point. And I don't think we moved back to Dad's little house yet because we were renting it out at that point, and because there were still renters in it. And after a while, he got the renters out. We moved back to the little house again. We always called it the little house. So we lived in that house for quite a few years, and things got a little tough, and Dad had a little problem keeping the payments up. And unfortunately, sorry about the traffic again, we're out here by the road. I always come out this way anyway. So unfortunately, Dad lost the house. The bank took it back, and he knew a person that owned, believe it or not, a milk factory. This was an old milk factory in a little town called Mahicanville, Ohio. And so we got rent. I think Dad traded some work and stuff for rent and that. So we lived in that, I don't know, quite a few years. You heard my story about my first bicycle. And that's where we lived when I got my first bicycle. I'm riding a bicycle right now. And so lived there for a number of years. I enjoyed that little town. It was a nice little town. We went to the little school. Dronesville, Ohio was where I went to school at. Oh gosh, I was small then, elementary school. And since then, that school's been shut down and tore down just this last year. So that's a shame that, you know, they go, oh, it wasn't suitable anymore. It was suitable all those years. It was still suitable, but they think that it wasn't suitable. I didn't find no problem with it. But anyway, so we lived there for a number of years. And somehow Mom and Dad got a lead on a farmhouse. And Shreve wasn't all that far away, that could do some farm work and trade for some rent. And so that's what we did. We went to a little out on the farm. We moved out there. And then I went to school in Shreve, Ohio, which was a great little town. And I lived there again another time as I got a little older, but went to school there. I loved the farm. The farming life was a great life. We lived there. We, did whatever we needed to do to make rent. All of us kids worked on the farm, and Mom and that all helped on the rent, fed some cows and stuff. And I forget the whole details of it, but Dad had been working at a factory again. And so he was working at a factory, and we were trying to help out with rent. We lived there for, I can't remember how many years now, but it's been quite a few years. And after a while, the owner of the farmhouse told his son was going to be getting married. And he wanted the farmhouse. Him and his new wife was going to live in it. So we had to again find a new place to live. And at that point, my parents had bought a brand new mobile home. And we lived in a trailer park in Worcester. And of course, they rented the lot and they bought the trailer. And so at that point, my sister had already left the house. She had gotten married and was gone. And me and my brother lived there. And it wasn't bad. I was still going to the school system, which I didn't like. Never did like it, Driveway High School. That was not my favorite place of all time to go to school. But we lived there until I got married really young. I thought I had to get married. I was about 16 when I got married. Didn't have to, I wanted to. And at that point, when I got married, talk about not being real smart. The day we got married, still didn't have a place to live. We haven't even thought about that. A Jeep passed me. So, lived with a new brother-in-law and sister-in-law for a short time, about a month, and then I rented an apartment. It was actually a house, the upstairs of a house. We rented it for, it was $60 a month, including utilities. So that's what I paid. I was working, I was still going to school. went to school in the OWE program, went to school half a day, and I'd get out to work the rest of the day. I obtained a job at a discount store in Millersburg, Ohio, and worked there a short time. They made me assistant manager, and I worked that. I'd get up early, 6 o'clock in the morning, go to school half a day. Noon, I was out of school, went to work, and worked till 9 o'clock that night. I'd get off, and then I'd get up in the morning and do the same thing over again. I did that till I graduated. If I wouldn't have graduated, it would have been fine for me. I didn't find graduation any big deal. Having a diploma meant nothing to me all my life. But anyways, lived there a long time, and then I finally had got another job at a factory up in Ohio, and I was a welder in that. And I used to make $1.60 an hour. $1.60 an hour, imagine that. Not much. So I got this new job, and I do believe I was making close to $6 an hour at that point. I mean, that was huge money. I was rich. Come from $1.60 an hour up to $6 an hour. Man, I didn't know what to do. And so I decided I wanted to move to Millersburg, and I rented a mobile home in the same park where my parents had put their park, their trailer. And since then, they had rented a private lot outside of town where it was just 2 mobile homes, a nicer area. But I lived there for a while, and then I thought, why am I paying rent? I'm making money now, at $6 an hour. I bought my own mobile home, and I rented a lot in Madisonburg, Ohio, which is a little town of Worcester. It's north of that. So I had, it was $45 a month was the lot rent. I don't remember what the mobile home payment was. I lived in that trailer for 14 years. That was the longest I've lived at any place up to that point, and until where I'm at right now, which I've lived here longer than anywhere in my life. But lived in a mobile home for a long time, and I decided, I really wanted a house instead of a mobile home. That mobile home, I took it out and put drywall inside it. I was trying to make it look like a home, and it just wasn't there. And it was hard to buy a house, especially when I didn't have money for the down payment. I'm right over here by the airport restaurant. Give you a quick view of that while we're out here riding around. Anyway, so, I struggled trying to get down payments, and tried the different, HAA loans or something, and couldn't get them and all that. And different houses. I was wanting to build a house, couldn't get that done. So after a while, I found this little house back in the Shreve again. Small house, paid $15,000 for it. An old house. It was over 100 years old. I lived right beside the railroad tracks. I mean, when I say right beside the railroad tracks, right beside the railroad tracks. But when I first bought that, I thought, I didn't have to pay much of the house, but it's close to tracks. A lot of people didn't want that. But after I lived there for a short time, it's like, I really loved living beside the railroad tracks. Look at all the airplanes. Stop here a second. They're all morned out. There you go. A little breezy today. Anyway, so lived there at a house, I think about 7 years. I had started my upholstery business while I was living in that house, and I did my work right out of a little tiny, not much of a garage. And so I did that, and after 7 years, I had gotten remarried, and she had a house up in Seville, Ohio, and I was able to move my business up there. And so this was a pretty nice home. Did a lot of work on this house. The upstairs like it was a attic and a half. What do you call it? You could walk around in the attic, and I built this beautiful bedroom, bathroom up there. Used really good materials and used nice. Had beautiful carpet. Had built-in cabinets, and I probably lived in that house maybe 7, 8 years, something like that. But in the meantime, I was really hating the winters. This Seville, Ohio, lives, I don't know if you know what the snow belt is up off of Lake Erie, but we're on the edge of it. And got tons and tons and tons of snow. It was, anybody knows me, I hate snow, I hate winter, I hate cold. And gosh, I liked the house, but I hated Ohio. Always did. Well, how could you hate them? Because I did. You know? I'm gonna take a little. They're building something over here. Can I get up there? Nah, I can't. I was gonna go over and see what they were doing over there. I can ride it around the block here, though. So, anyways, back in 1990, I was following a lot of racing. I was around racing all my life, and I worked at a racetrack. I owned a race car for a while, and come Speed Weeks 1990, I decided I was going to take my motor home. I had a Winnebago Class A motor home, and had just reupholstered the whole interior. It was nice looking, but I decided, hey, I'm going to Florida. And so that's what I did. I got into the Class A Winnebago and came to Florida in 1990 for Speed Weeks, Florida Speed Weeks, and I was following sprint cars. And so I came down here and left Ohio when it was probably in the teens, very cold. I want to show you what they're building right here, little side thing. I saw yesterday, got some equipment there. It's kind of an empty field. A lot of people use it to mess around in, you know, run dogs and all that. They got a big pile of stuff. I don't know what they're building there. Must be building something. Anyway, that was a little side mark. But yeah, I came down here to Volusia County Speedway. This is where I live now, Volusia County. And spent 3 weeks down here in Florida, boondocking out of my Class A motorhome. And at that point, I decided, and it was beautiful. Oh my gosh, it was in the 80s all 3 weeks, just gorgeous out. Of course, Ohio, it was cold, miserable, snowy, and we decided, I go, you know, I'm moving to Florida. That's it. I've had enough of this Ohio crappy weather, you know, and so started looking around, and it took me from, that was 1990 to 98. I found how to do it, you know, had to get our jobs right. I had my upholstery shop, and everything kind of fell in place. Found a house online that worked out great to set my upholstery shop up in, and that's what I did. This is the house I live in today. Love this house. I've been in, like I said, I've had this house now. July will be 26 years that I've had this house, and still here. And so I was thinking that, been doing these stories. I go, hey, you know, how about a story of where all did you live? And a little bit of because we all have lived somewhere, and a lot of us have lived in a lot of different places on it. And so I thought I would show it. This is where they keep the buses. Flip it over. I haven't done that all the time. But that's where the Volusia County keeps their buses to take the kiddies to school. I don't think each school has their own bus system. I think the whole county has a system. I don't know. I don't have kids. So anyway, that's my story of where have I lived. What has been my story of homes and stuff. I've moved around a lot, but not extremely a lot. I mean, I've lived, the longest I've lived is right now, and coming up on 26 years. Before that, I lived in 14 years in that mobile home. The other times, usually around 7-8 years, lived in a spot, and change things, and move on to somewhere else. But that's just kind of what I've done. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Let's just go out here to the road there and end this out. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'm going to end it right here. Sometimes it's like, where am I going to end this video at? I'm going to end it right here. Tell you a little bit. This was Florida Military School from let me get closer so I can read it. 1956 to 1971. This is it was a site of Florida Military School, an accredited National Honor School that operated from 56 to 71. So there you guys go. That's a little bit of my story of where do I live. I live here now. I think I'll probably live here the rest of my life. So guys, thanks for watching, checking us out. See you the next time. Hope you enjoyed it. Hey, again, we're a Amazon affiliate. Down below we have a link. Click on the link, takes you right to Amazon, and you can make your purchases. This will cost you absolutely nothing, but it will give me a little bonus back. So appreciate you do that. Like, subscribe, share it to your friends. We'll see you the next time. Thanks so much for watching.